Good morning. Commissioners, Chief Choi, Mr. T. Fank, Madam Secretary, Mr. Inspector General Mark Smith, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, Briggs, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Correction, all public comment will be heard on item number 3 on today's agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of speakers will be: a speaker in this room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in several ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person: these meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. While in the boardroom, members of the audience must be seated. Standing is not permitted. At this time, we will move to item number 1, President's comments, and I am going to defer to my predecessor, Commissioner Briggs, to open the President's comments.
Thank you, President Suthers. Today I am sad to acknowledge that Richard T. Fank, the Executive Director of the Board of Police Commission, will retire. Today will be the last day that Mr. T. Fank, or Mr. T, as some of us call him, attends the Commission meetings as our Executive Director. To say that Richard T. Fank is an institution is an understatement. After 20 years as Executive Director of the Board of Police Commission, he is literally the personal repository of information of the LAPD. In addition to his service for the City of Los Angeles as Executive Director of the Board of Police Commission, Mr. T. Fank has devoted his entire life to public service. One of my colleagues will cover the scope of his dedicated career of public service. So I will not give a recital of his career accomplishments. Rather, I will discuss Mr. T. Fank as I know him as a commissioner. When I was appointed as commissioner in December 2020, I was told by one of my predecessors that I needed to make sure that I spoke with Mr. Tiefenk at least once a week. Those weekly check-ins with Mr. Tiefenk quickly became daily. I, like the vast majority of police commissioners, come not from a background of law enforcement. Rather, we come from other walks of life, most of which have little to do with law enforcement. To learn more about law enforcement, my predecessors, for the past 20 years, have come to rely upon Mr. Tiefenk to teach us the ropes, mentor us in the ways and nomenclature of law enforcement. He guided each of us through our terms of service on the Police Commission. For me, Mr. Tiefenk has been invaluable in helping me visit all 21 divisions within the Los Angeles Police Department. He helped to arrange training sessions for me with instructors at the academy. He even arranged to have me tased so that I would know what it felt like. When it comes to the department after action report following the 2020 civil unrest, Mr. Tiefenk was instrumental in providing both guidance and insights to my former colleague Eileen Decker and me in working with the department to create a plan of action that would improve the department and our city. When it came time for the department to address the issues of how to deal with officer discipline, Mr. Tiefenk worked long hours with us to not only rewrite the manuals, but also to come up with new policies and procedures for the selections of new hearing officers. To list Mr. Tiefenk's accomplishments in this department would be a long one. It would take far too long than the time I have today. Suffice it to say, Mr. Tiefenk has been in the trenches with each commissioner, helping to guide and shape the reforms that have implemented at the LAPD. I want to personally thank Mr. Tiefenk for his dedication to the city. I want to thank Mr. Tiefenk for his dedication to the department. I want to thank Mr. Tiefenk for his selfless acts of assisting me and my predecessors. It has been an honor and privilege serving with you, Mr. Tiefenk. You will not be forgotten. Your service to this city and to this department will be forever remembered. You, sir, are truly one of a kind. You are that shining example of a true civil servant. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Vice President Shields.
Thank you. And Commissioner Briggs, I could not have said it any better, and I will not attempt to do so, but I will take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Tiefenk on his retirement and also recognize, when I've been talking about this, I've described Mr. Tiefenk as really the backbone of the Police Commission for 20 years and really the glue that's kept the commissioners together. And I had the pleasure of first meeting Mr. Tiefenk right after the murder of George Floyd, when the Police Commission created the advisory committee on the for building trust and equity. And it was the first time I've seen Mr. Tiefenk, first time I've really had insight into the Police Commission and the oversight that it provided to the LAPD. And I was always so surprised and very well, pleasantly surprised that a former police chief of two different departments was really leading the way in thinking about reform issues and really welcoming and supporting the mission of this commission to provide true civilian oversight, and was, always so progressive in the thinking of what should we be asking the department to do. And so with all of the meetings that we had on a weekly basis, he always came on our little Zoom box with a smile on his face and just always came to the job with just so much energy and commitment to serving the people of Los Angeles and really being the sounding board for each of the commissioners. So Thank you, Mr. Tiefenk, for all the guidance that you have been providing, not only me, but all of the commissioners that have come before me. You will be very sorely missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Garcia.
Richard, everything that was said already, and thank you for guiding me as well and providing that leadership, advice, counsel, and being that institutional knowledge that that you are. One time you mentioned something about having 20-something commissioners under you over your career. I think it's 27 if I remember, and 28. And each one of them having a file in your memory. And so my file might be short, but I leave a big thank you note in there for you to hopefully remember. And I hope we continue to leverage the knowledge that you've left us and use it wisely. And one of the things we say in my day job when someone does well and we want to recognize, we say, glad you were born. So, Richard, I'm glad you were born. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Chief Choi.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words. So, Mr. Tiefenk, you know you're a friend to me, and quite frankly to my family, and as is your wife. Really appreciate everything that you've been there for me. And I kind of say these words from a different perspective, not as a commissioner, and quite frankly, not as a chief of police. Most of our dealings together have been me sitting in those chairs right in front of us, having to present to the commission. And some of you can understand how stressful and uncertain that can be depending on the topic. And every time that I had to do that, from the risk management strategy to the homeless reports that we're reporting on, to the after action reports, and quite frankly, when I was chief of staff and then as the interim chief, I've always come to you, asked, how long is my presentation supposed to be? How many people can I have? What's the topic? What are the questions that are going to be expected of me? You've always been the sounding voice, the sound voice, the sounding board for me, to calm me, give me confidence and security in the presentation, in my conduct every day. And that meant so much to me. And I don't know if you realize that you were mentoring and leading me all these years along the way for doing that. And I truly appreciate that. What I didn't know is looking into your past, because I never really did. You were always the person to go to, and I think on the 10th floor, everyone here knows that, when we ask the question, are you sure this is what we're supposed to do? And when we hear Mr. Tiefenk said this is what we're supposed to do, we did it. And that's the leadership that you presented to us, and we appreciate that. You will be missed, but you will never be forgotten. You will always be part of this LAPD family. And I appreciate you for who you are and everything you've done for me, as well as this organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Inspector General Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Richard, I'm going to echo a lot of the themes that you've heard already, because I think there's a consistency in what people feel about you and what you've given as a executive director for so long to this commission. When I came on board as the Inspector General, I think, Richard, I've actually told you this once or twice, but just in case, in your old age, you need some reminders, I'll tell you a third time. Some people that you and I both trust and respect very much told me, get guidance from Richard. This is going to be a new position for you. You're going to be figuring out a lot of things. He's going to steer you in the right direction and tell you sort of what you need to know. So make sure you speak with him and make sure that you have him close during your tenure there. I took those words to heart very much. You were willing to allow me to do that, which I appreciate very much. And I always saw our roles a little bit as sort of partners in a certain way, where two of the three direct reports as commission, trying to make sure that their business gets done in the way that they need it to be done. And to have you, with the length of time and experience that you had there, to be that partner for me when I came in, I'm not sure that everyone would be so fortunate, and try not to take that for granted. So I thank you very much for that. And again, just echo all the themes that everyone said, the help that you provided. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Inspector General Smith. And Mr. T, what I'd like to do in wrapping this up and saying thank you and echoing the comments of everyone here before me. You've been a lifelong public servant for more than 55 years and serving as 20 years as Executive Director of the Board of Police Commissioners and always having the answer to any question that I may have had. Mr. Tiefenk was the Chief of Police for Pomona and Buena Park Police Departments, beginning his career with Montclair Police Department, and served for more than 2 years in the California Attorney General's Division of Law Enforcement. In 2003, he began his career with LAPD. Initially hired as Assistant Inspector General, and within months, he was appointed as the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Police Commission in 2004. During his tenure as Executive Director, he's provided staff and onboarded 28 police commissioners. I'm proud to be number 27. Through 4 mayoral administrations, 7 deputy mayors of public safety, and 5 chiefs of police. His experience and expertise were an asset to the selection process for 2 chiefs of police, 2 interim chiefs of police, the reappointment process for 2 chiefs of police, and a selection process of 3 inspector generals. You'd have to reach long and hard to find someone at the level of chief or inspector general to find someone who Mr. Tiefenk was not a part of the process of them moving through the department. This evening, the commission will award him with the Commission's Distinguished Service Medal for his exceptional service to the city of Los Angeles, and I'm honored and proud to be able to be the one to do that on behalf of my fellow commissioners. I join many here who want you to know you will be missed, particularly by someone like me who has an appreciation for your wisdom, your patience, and your French cuffs complemented by extraordinary cufflinks that you wear all the time. As you embark on other activities and possibly the PGA Tour, I hope we can reach out to you for your counsel and just to see how things are going as you begin this new chapter of your life. Words will never express our thanks for your service and your commitment to our great city and the Los Angeles Police Department. With that, I say, sir, it's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners, Chief and Mark. I'm overwhelmed by your comments. Obviously, I'm humbled to hear the words that you said. I've enjoyed my time with the LAPD and the city of Los Angeles. I hope I've contributed and left something behind that will be of value to the commission and the department as I move on to the next phase of my life, which will be hopefully playing golf at 9:30 on Tuesday mornings, which is my intent. Seriously, I came here just as the federal consent decree had been in about 1.5 years in existence, and then was here through the entire federal consent decree and the reforms that the department made. And clearly there has been much progress by the department. The department continues to reform itself every day. But I think the reforms that have been made have led the country in policing, and today can be a model of what a federal consent decree can do for a law enforcement organization. Because I'm of the firm belief that the LAPD would have not changed had it not been for a federal consent decree. And the changes that are in existence today came about from your predecessor commissioners, the predecessor police chiefs to Chief Choi, and their commitment to reform. One of the things I think that people forget about LAPD and don't think about it enough is the fact that they are considered a leader in law enforcement, not just in America, but in the country, in the world. And they set the tone for many new orders that come about, many new procedures and policies that come about, and that becomes the way policing is done. One of the things that the department, I think, really does well, and again, does not get the credit it deserves. When something goes wrong, they make a mistake or do something inappropriate, generally admit it right away and then identify a plan to fix it and move forward. And I think the department doesn't get the credit they deserve for those kinds of thinking about how do we reform every day. And that's what they're doing, reforming every day. And that's under the tutelage and guidance and in sometimes pressure of the commission. The commission, unbeknownst to a lot of folks, does a lot of work in molding the department and moving the department and giving direction. And I've been happy to be a part of that and proud to be a part of that over the 20 years I've been here. But the changes and reforms that have taken place have been a combination of strong oversight by a police commission and strong desire by our department to reform itself. And for that, I'm happy to have been a part of it. And in my 55-plus year career, I would have to say my most fulfilling job has been as Executive Director of the Board of Police Commissioners for the Los Angeles Police Department. Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you, Mr. T. We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, report of the Chief of Police. Chief Choi.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you very much again for allowing me to make those comments. So I'm gonna start off with just a follow-up from last week's meeting regarding the unarmed response model, the pilot program that we initiated. So there was a couple questions that this commission asked, and the question one was, how many calls were redirected back to the police department for a police response? So the new numbers for this current week through the 23rd, there were 116 calls, and if you remember, that's much higher now, it was 82, 83 from last year. So out of 116 calls this week, 7 were redirected back to a traditional police response because when the service providers responded there, either it didn't qualify for that type of service or police were, or an armed response was required. And then the second question was, what's the average response time for these service providers to get to these calls? So for these 116 calls, the average response time was 25.4 minutes. And then I just want to clarify one last statement that I made last year. I said the number of clinicians and healthcare providers that are responding to these calls depended on the county. Well, I want to correct myself. These are nonprofit service providers in each of these divisions that are contracted to respond to these services. So hopefully I answered those questions from last week. I'll start significant events by talking about a law enforcement related injury in 77th Street Division. So on March 24th at approximately 11:05 hours, 77th Street uniform officers, they received a radio call of a domestic violence restraining order violation. Suspect was at the location in the 700 block of West 59th Street. As the officers arrived, they observed the suspect, later identified as Brian Garay, in front of the location. Mr. Gray immediately ran from the officers and a foot pursuit ensued. As the officers closed the distance, on Gray, a use of force occurred where officers discharged a taser in probe mode, striking him in the chest and stomach. Mr. Gray fell to the ground and he was taken into custody. The Los Angeles Fire Department responded to the scene and transported him in a rescue ambulance to a local hospital. During the transport, Mr. Gray began to show signs of medical distress and was ultimately admitted to the hospital. He was in critical condition. As of this morning, he is listed in stable condition. No other officers or community members were injured during the incident. We also had an officer-involved shooting in West Valley on Thursday, March 21st, at approximately 05:10 hours. Robbery Homicide Division was investigating a series of robberies, armed robberies, that had occurred in the city of Los Angeles. In furtherance of that investigation, a warrant was obtained for a suspect identified as Zeph Rocco, who resided along the 7900 block of Reseda Boulevard in West Valley Division. The warrant was being served by Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics. They surrounded the location and they made telephonic contact with Rocco, and they ordered him to surrender. Shortly after that phone call, Rocco climbed over a third-story balcony of his apartment complex, and he was armed with an assault rifle, and he jumped to the ground. Rocco dropped the rifle as he struck the ground and immediately began to search for it. As he reacquired the grip of the rifle, an officer-involved shooting occurred. Rocco was struck by the gunfire and taken into custody without further incident. Los Angeles Fire Department personnel who were already staged at the scene immediately began rendering aid and subsequently transported Rocco to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased a short time later. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident. A 5.56 caliber semi-automatic ghost gun rifle was recovered at scene. We also had an in-custody death on Sunday, March 10th at approximately 08:30 hours. Transit Services Division uniform officers were conducting a foot beat in the area of 7th Street and Metro Center Station. They encountered a suspect, later identified as Ronald Shaheen, loitering in the area. The officers conducted a want and warrant check and determined that Mr. Shaheen had an outstanding felony warrant. Shaheen was later placed under arrest and transported to Metropolitan Detention Center for booking. During the pre-booking process, Shaheen appeared to be suffering from narcotics withdrawals and was transported by Los Angeles Fire Department to a local hospital. Shaheen was subsequently admitted for narcotics withdrawal and was later absentee booked on the arrest warrant. A few days later, on March 13th, while still hospitalized, Shaheen was cited out for his warrant. And then a few days after that, on March 7th, while still receiving hospital care, Shaheen was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Force Investigation Division is investigating that incident as well. This past weekend, I was able to travel to the Baker to Vegas Challenge Cup relay race. So we had a total of 258 teams from law enforcement agencies across the nation, including 5 teams from Canada that participated in the 38th annual Baker to Vegas relay race. This event covered a 120-mile course across the Mojave Desert. This year, the fastest team competing finished the course in 12 hours and 19 minutes in the open division, and this was the New York PD's men's elite running team. Our department also fielded a variety of teams in different categories. Our men's elite team secured a 3rd place finish in the open division, while Southeast Division clinched first place in our station division, followed by Newton Division in 3rd place. Additionally, our women's elite running team achieved 2nd place in their category. Many of our department teams earned top 10 finishes in their respective categories, and this event truly underscores the importance of teamwork, physical fitness, and leadership, and quite frankly, support from family, friends, and organizations. This is all required to just compete in this event. And I think it's a great event for law enforcement around the nation and even the world. But unfortunately, in a tragic turn of events, the New York Police Department, just a day after celebrating their victory at Baker to Vegas, now mourns the loss of one of their own, Officer Jonathan Diller, who was fatally shot during a routine traffic stop on Monday, March 25th. The senseless killing has left the department and the city in shock and mourning. Officer Diller leaves behind a grieving wife and a 1-year-old child. As the NYPD grapples with this heartbreaking loss, we stand in solidarity with them, offering condolences during this difficult time. The callous act serves as a stark reminder of the dangers officers face on a daily basis in their line of duty. Our thoughts are with Officer Diller's families, friends, and colleagues as they navigate this unimaginable loss and honor his memory. I also want to extend our thoughts and prayers to those still missing and those impacted by the Baltimore bridge collapse. I wish them all the success and best in locating those individuals that are still missing and providing support for those impacted by that bridge collapse. Okay, moving on to crime. So citywide, again, this is with the exception of Central Bureau, for the week ending 3/23/2024, year-to-date, violent crime is up 2.9%, property crime is down 4.6%, and overall Part 1 crime is down 3.1%. Week over week, this does include Central Bureau. This is a hand count. Week over week, there were 5 homicides this week compared to 5 homicides for the same time period last year. Year-to-date for homicides, again, this includes citywide, including Central Bureau, there have been 73 homicides compared to 57 in 2023. This is an increase of 28.1%. However, looking at 2022, homicides are down 6.4% for the same time period. Victims shot are up 11.7%. Again, this includes Central Bureau as well, citywide. However, looking at 2022, victims shot are still down 3.4%. Robbery continues to plague us as a crime problem. It's robbery, overall robbery is up 9.5%. This does not include Central Bureau statistics. Robberies with a firearm continue to be up 2.9% compared to 2023. And gang-related robberies are up 5.3% in 24 compared to 23. Motor vehicle theft is up 6%. This does not include Central Bureau numbers. Kias, Chevrolets, and Hyundais are still the most stolen vehicle. And again, we continue to see e-bikes and scooters increasing and being reported as stolen at 4.6% of all GTAs year to date. Burglaries citywide, except for Central Bureau, are up +3 or only 0.1%. But the nuance here is commercial burglaries are down citywide 6.1%, but residential burglaries are up 4.5%. So we're seeing an increase in our residential burglaries citywide. And then moving on to our personnel strength, as of March 25th, we are at sworn 8866. Civilian personnel staffing is 2627, and our reserve officers remain at 443. And that concludes my comments.
Chief, thank you very much for your report, and I'll open up to my fellow commissioners for comments or questions. I'll start with Vice President Shields.
Thank you, Chief, for the comprehensive report. And thank you for the clarification about the unarmed response. That's good to see that they are taking an increased number of calls and that only a few of them have had to be redirected to police. So that's a great trend, and we hope that continues and hope that the city expands the unarmed response in the future. Just going to the crime picture that you've provided and how, some of the statistics that you provided, may impact how people feel safe, particularly the increase in homicides, people shot, residential burglaries. These are all things that end up kind of causing more fear or concern, and seeing that it's trending in the upward direction. Is the department doing anything to try to level off those numbers, or taking any specific action to help with those issues?
Absolutely. If I can clarify, and I don't mean to minimize year-over-year numbers, we are absolutely seeing an increase from 2023 in these crimes. But if we look back, and I didn't call all of them out, but if we look back at 22 and prior to that, homicides again are down 6.4% compared to 2022. Victims shot are down 3.4% compared to 2022. Our gang-related robberies are down 25.5% compared to 22. Robberies with firearms are down 35% compared to 2022. So I say all this just to put things in perspective, that we are aware of these trends. We're in the first quarter of the year. I'm not minimizing this all. Each of these crime trends and patterns at the area level and at the bureau level and even at the department-wide level have specific strategies to address these crimes. This is, for example, we stood up the Organized Retail Theft Crime Task Force when we saw large groups of people going in and doing the smash and grabs, smash and robs. We're seeing an increase in the burglaries of residential communities, high-end residential homes, and we started the South American Theft Group Task Force to address those issues. And then our robberies, we've done a deeper dive. We can see where these are occurring, what time they're occurring, and focusing our resources at those times and places. But ultimately, too, it's about not just the numbers, but it's creating a sense of safety, and that's working with the communities through our CSP model, through our senior lead officers, through offering open invitations for coffee with a cop. All these events that connect with the community. And what I've learned and what I've seen is when a community member has a direct link to an officer, whether it's the captain or their senior lead officer or the patrol officer, that sense of safety goes up because they have somebody to call, somebody to lean on. And so we have to focus on that just as much as we are the crime picture. And so those are some of the things that we're doing.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you, President Southers. Chief, I'd like to draw your attention to recent reports by the LA Times. One report a couple of weeks ago dealt with the inability of the chief of police to fire officers that have breached the trust of the department in a variety of ways. And the article went through a number of issues that the city council is supposedly dealing with or not dealing with. Then there was a follow-up to it with an editorial by the LA Times that suggested possible resolutions to it, to the problem, by calling for an election in November. However, and I also understand from the LA Times article that the city council is supposed to be requesting that the department and/or the commission provide them with a report on this. However, I recall that under my term as president, the Inspector General had a report that was provided to the City Council, and we provided the City Council with clear guidance. And that guidance was that they could simply repeal the ordinance that exists now that has the all-civilian panel so that it can revert back to 2 officers and 1 civilian, which they all seem to be requesting. Have you, or has the department been provided with a request from City Council as to any proposed direction from the department on this issue?
Excuse me, sir, in the green shirt, your conversation is becoming disruptive to this meeting. You are being asked to take the conversation outside the room or you will be removed from the room. Take the conversation outside the room. It is disrupting the meeting. Chief, you may respond.
Okay, so yes, Commissioner Briggs, we did receive a request for a report back on a number of things, as did other entities within the city on this particular issue. I think one issue that repealing the pilot ordinance, if you will, wouldn't accomplish is giving the chief of police the ability to terminate after the presentation of the complaint investigation, which is something that this department was looking to do. That has now been part of the motion to include, but again, as you know, this requires a charter change, which will have to happen if these reports can get back to council, voted on, and move forward onto the ballot for the November election or voting. So there are certain things that repealing the ordinance would accomplish, but there are other things that it wouldn't accomplish that the department is still looking to do.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Garcia.
Question regarding the alternative response calls, and in particular the follow-up from the 7 calls that were redirected, and really kind of getting a sense of at what point the folks who responded realized that they needed to be redirected, and it could be a future conversation that we have around that. But just trying to understand how far did they take that incident before they really felt it needed to pivot and shift. The other part is for the ones that weren't redirected, what kind of follow-up or data is captured and who gets that data, whether it's reports, to really understand what was provided or offered or how the incident was diffused, whether it's referrals, who they went to, on-site services and how those services were delivered, what approaches were taken, just so we have a set of information on what is happening.
Okay, so again, this program is administered by the CAO's office. The service providers are contracted through that entity. We can absolutely work through them, through the CAO's office to get that data. That's not something that we are capturing as to what point the service provider realizes that this necessitates a police response and calls the police. But those are things, again, so because it's a pilot and it's new, these data capturing points or these metrics are actually just being developed. So these questions are something we'll absolutely communicate to CAO. Hopefully they can start adding these metrics on, and then there'll be a overall report that I can just present to the commission at that time. But great questions, and we'll follow up on that for you.
Thank you, Chief. And Chief, I'd just like to return to the crime stats and just appreciate your commitment to the community safety partnership model of community engagement. In the meetings that I've been to across the city where they've got CSP, the citizens and residents of those areas have been quite vocal and supportive of that model, and it seems to be effective, and I agree with you. I'd like to go to department strength, and just again, if I may, provide some compliments and continued congratulations to recruitment. This past Saturday at the Amundsen Recruit Training Center, again, over 100 people at 7 in the morning were there to take the test, coming from as far away from outside of the country this time. And they certainly are consistently getting the numbers of people into the process to take the test, so there's no shortage of interest in the department. And again, I'd just like you to know, Captain Patillo, Chief Hamilton were there, and the room was full, and it looks like the interest is still growing, so that's absolutely great. I'd like to now go to item number 3 on the agenda, the public comment period. Madam Secretary, please identify the first speaker.
The first speaker is the Red Chief Hunt.
Good morning to the council, to the police commission. Settlers, you've been here too long. I said that twice. T-Pain, 2004, Main Street, you've been here. Have you made any direct effect for the Los Angeles Police Department? And you can't answer that. We've been together for 20 years now. Troy, the detectives that took the report are where? Right there, okay. Okay, yeah, so I need to follow up with them. Also, I need to follow up with the 77th Division. Can you have them down here next week? The captain, 1, 2, and Gomez, the lieutenant, along with the commander of the 77th Division. Time out again, 1 hour, 15 minutes to get to my house. Delays in calls and stuff like that. I'm not really understanding what the delay is about. You guys got the $3 billion. None of that money has went back into the community. I need to understand that part of the budget where don't none of that money get back to the community. I need to know the statistics on the fentanyl death for the Valley, 350 last year, and the South Bureau. I need to know all the statistics because a lot of times those are homicides and getting reported as overdoses. The sheriff department came out and did a good report on it. I think it was 60 Minutes or something, that the fentanyl death was homicides. Now we had 350 homicides or 350 overdoses in the Valley, and they all came back as overdoses. That's chemical warfare. Is not overdoses. That's 187s. We need to follow back up on that. I was talking to one of the chiefs. That's attempted murder when somebody get killed with fentanyl, man. That's a deadly drug that needs to be prescribed by doctors and stuff like that. Here again, the reports are kind of lopsided. You guys went in and reframed him, and the overdoses being reframed as being overdoses instead of homicides. And lastly, but surely we need to have a good report on that. A lot of the crime report is watered down, man, and I just want to follow up on the correct numbers and stuff like that. Sutters, you need to talk to me, and Chief, we need to sit down and have a meeting about what your direction is for the department.
Next, we have Paula Miner.
Can you hear me? Hello? Ooh,
Paula, you're on.
yes, can you hear me? Hello? Oh. Can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me? Oh,
Okay.
no. Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Oh, dear. Hello?
Be Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Chief. Hello, Jonathan Foster. Last week, the OIS, the two officers were jumping over the fence. I thought that was just amazing bravery, with the guy, and it was and then the guy was trying to get the gun out, and it was amazing de-escalation. Everything they have screamed about for the last 25 years, these two officers were doing. Next one. Aren't you a little brown person? You're Korean, right? Nori was calling you a little brown person, was redrawing district lines. You haven't arrested her yet? I would. How are you? Nano, 100,000 times smaller than a hair. And nano crime is coming. So I want people to think about that. Remember at the Watts meeting, there was Dr. Perry. He says, turn to the person next to you and say, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Boy, did I love that moment. That was really, really nice. I thought that was just the greatest thing to say. And the guy at Burlington, he was hitting the girl with the bike lock, the padlock. If this tone, hey, turn to the person next to you, say, I love you. If that was around this person, how much of a change in this person's life. Maybe he wouldn't have gone into Burlington Coat Factory and started hitting a girl. And so I started thinking about why did this happen is because she didn't have a gun. And I realized nobody in the store had a gun because there's a gun buyback problem and a gun. Nobody's allowed to have guns. So I thought that the LAPD should sponsor old lady gun handling and defense class. Yeah. So is everybody committing crime mentally ill? Is that how that is? And Special Order 40, you guys brought DACA in here. Special Order 40, and the Jamil Shaw got shot in the face, and nobody respects this family. I have a hard time respecting you. Number 5, fire people on the spot. So the chief has bias, or if okay, so you want to do a chief can fire on the spot. So who in the past would have gotten fired? The police officers who shot Eric Rivera, would they have been fired? How about the ones who shot Gresario Mack? Would they have been fired? How about the ones who killed Keenan Anderson? How about Takar Smith? How about who sent the George Floyd Valentine around? Would those people be fired? How about Jones at the Burlington Coat Factory? Would Jones have been fired? I want a list of these people that would have been fired for the last 25 years. I want a list. Who would have been fired? We need to have those names.
Okay, we'll go with Betty Lay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Sir, what's the issue?
Hello?
Okay, the next speaker is Hamid Khan, please.
I'm having technical issues.
Okay.
Technical issues.
Okay, yeah, she's aware of it. We have some technical issues, so we'll go ahead with you for now. Thank you.
So yesterday in the LA Times, there was an interview of Errol Southers that Lamborghini had done. And besides all the fluff that was spit out, a couple things kind of, needed to be addressed. One was when Libor asked the question about people calling the police commissioner lapdog or, rubber stamp body, which is absolutely true. And Errol Southers, I don't have the exact thing in front of me. I'm still one of those old school people who gets a newspaper every morning. That, just something to the extent that killings happen and then we adjudicate and then if it's in policy or something like that. But I think there continues to be a major problem with that there's a complete failure to understand that how violence is baked into the tactics and the programs. Going back to Operation Hammer, broken windows policing, suspicious activity reporting, predictive policing, the SARA program, laser operations, chronic offender program, on and on and on, and now data-informed community-focused policing, profiling and targeted violence is baked into these programs. So there's a failure to address some fundamentals which will continue to bring the outcomes that we have continued to face for decades now. And that's exactly what we highlighted, if folks around here remember, in our report back in 2018, before the bullet hits the body. And it was that report that led to, at that time, Cynthia McLean Hill, who was on the police commission, and I don't want to glorify the commission, but really taking attention and holding public hearings where, we were invited, we made the presentation, which then led to the dismantlement of Operation Laser and the chronic offender program, and then predictive policing. Took a span of 2 years. So going back to it, that we can have all the interviews, we can have all the fluff language and everything that exists, but unless we really very seriously look at that how violence is baked in, how data-informed, community-focused policing is just a rebranding of risk assessments and algorithms and the same old bullshit language that has been driven. So that has driven it. The other piece I want to speak about is this, Choi and Luna announced this Operation Safe City. These are federal programs which federalize the city. Local cops are not, in their partnership, are not held accountable to local and state ordinances and laws, because it is federalized. We've seen, and I'm reminded about 3 or 4 years ago, Washington Post did a really good, they chronicled the practices and the misconduct and the decades of these federal and local programs about profiling, about violence, about shootings, about extreme misconduct and corruption as a result of these programs. So let's keep an eye on that, because that is again coming as a result of Operation Relentless Pursuit that Trump wanted.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're gonna try Paula Minor again.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Paula?
Yes. Hello? Hello?
Okay, we'll move on.
The next speaker, please, Jason Reedy.
What's the deal? Why can't my child play with pieces of paper that your commission has discarded, old agendas? Why is that an issue? Why is your officer telling me that my child can play with his toys and not pieces of paper that nobody gives a fuck about? If you guys gave a fuck about it, it'd be behind your little rope or something else. But why is that an issue? It's fucking stupid. Like, why does my child have to be targeted by your fucking officer? Why does your officer have to say something about my child playing with papers? Papers! God fucking damn. So let's start with Dom, the accountant, and his numbers. Dominic has been going around spewing all sorts of numbers related to recruitment. For example, he's revealed how many pocket tests happen at hiring seminars and provided numbers related to applications to show how they have skyrocketed this year. But when I asked your PIO the same question, for the same information that has been repeated in numerous forums, even though you claim it's more comprehensive, those numbers exist. They should be provided to me as a member of the public, especially given that you go around saying you want the community to be the eyes and ears of the LAPD, but only if they are in support of the LAPD, right? Anyone with the intention of calling out and naming the harms, lies, and fuckery of this department is given the runaround, at best, in a jail cell at worst. Now I ask this commission, why can't that information be easily shared? Why? These numbers that you use to provide cover for the $1 billion you were gifted last August and the millions upon millions that go towards your recruitment, why does a member of the public have to wait at a minimum 7 months? I have to file a public records request and wait up to 7 months to receive that information that you guys talk about all the time here. We've seen how transparent you've been with records requests in the past. I mean, for example, I have an open request for 2 months worth of emails from Eric Holyfield, someone who has on numerous occasions has tried to intimidate me with private info about my life. And the LAPD closed that request after 10 months, stating that those records didn't exist. Imagine that. No emails during a 2-month period for this officer. And when I asked the department if they were really saying that there wasn't one single responsive records, they told me that they would conduct another search. Again, this is the type of shit that we have to deal with as LAPD brass comes into our communities talking about accountability and transparency. Now, again, I want to talk about the fact that you guys are stating that you can't produce badge numbers. Over a year that a PRA was filed by a community member, and your department has only produced a blank badge card, nothing else. How hard is it to give us the badge numbers? Oftentimes, your officers, when I ask them for their serial numbers out in public, they try to give me their badge number. So in an effort to provide transparency for the public, you should give us the badge numbers since your officers don't often give us their serial numbers. And again, I want to ask you, what is this mysterious investigation that you guys did into me that concluded in November of 2022? Would you like to provide any comment on that?
Thank you.
The $105 million that your department is over.
Madam Secretary, please call the next speaker.
Why hasn't the commissioner asked about it?
Sir, your time has elapsed. Step away from the podium. Step away from the podium.
Shut the fuck up, Errol.
I'm now ordering you to leave the room.
I'll get the fuck out of here. But I want to ask again, why is this?
I'm going to ask you one more time to leave the room or you'll be removed from the room.
$105 million you have overspent, and why hasn't a single commissioner asked something about that?
It is our system. We're working on it, ma'am.
Where's the news release on that?
Sir,
try-
leave the room.
So remove yourself, and I'll put my child in the seat, and I will leave. Again, that fucking.
Your time has expired. You've been ordered to leave the room.
Within 10 months, and your department hasn't released a statement on it. Hasn't released any information about that. Why?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next speaker.
I'm sorry, Paula, can you try speaking one more time?
Hello?
Oh, hi,
Can you hear
Paula.
me?
Hi, yes,
Oh.
thank you for your patience. What items would you like to speak on?
All of them 3 minutes, please. Can
Okay.
you all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you, thank you.
All right. As a member of Black Lives Matter, we've been attending or monitoring these police commission meetings since 2013. And we now realize that very little change will occur by us speaking at these meetings. We realize the issues we're concerned with must be addressed through policy change, legislation, or lawsuits. We advocate for alternatives to policing and removing cops from stops. An incident that occurred March 13th has to be shared here and go on the record of this commission. That day, 3 young Black men from North Carolina visiting LA on spring break were stopped by LAPD in the Rampart Division, ordered out of their car at gunpoint and handcuffed because LAPD said there was no front license plate on the car. Basically a traffic stop. The car was a rental. The rental car papers were presented to LAPD and were found in order. There were no other issues, no speeding, no law breaking, no guns, no drugs. LAPD called for backup, searched the entire car without permission, removed everything from the car, luggage, boxes, personal items, and threw them on the street. Told them there was a problem with the rental car registration and the car must be seized immediately, impounded, and towed away. They were left on the street. We were filming. This stop took over an hour. More LAPD cars came. A total of 12 officers showed up in that 90-minute period. As other communities complain here at this commission about wanting more police, we in South LA are over policed. 12 officers basically harassing 3 young Black men who had already been ordered out at gunpoint, handcuffed, and had the car taken. No ticket, no paperwork to show the rental car place what had happened. Given a sergeant's business card, and we filmed this. It was Sergeant Jesus 43453, Romero badge 43737, Hernandez badge 45311, Voce badge 43117. This was clearly a waste of limited city resources and policing funds. We continue to work with other organizations and the LA City Council to make change. We say that people must have alternatives to policing, especially those in mental health crisis, and the city of LA must remove cops from traffic stops. This is a clear example of what occurs frequently with Black and brown residents in LAPD targeted communities where racial profiling still occurs. Thank you.
The next speaker, please, is Audrey
First of all, I wanted to go back to Commissioner Shields' comment about T-Fink. The commission has no backbone, so he cannot be the core of it. I also want to talk about regular item B. I want to know how many of those field officers you're training have used lethal force and are going to train other people to do the same. Regarding C, I can just imagine your criteria for hiring outside people to be your spin doctors. You have to be able to write copy while holding your nose. I wanted to also talk about this $24 million settlement that the city taxpayers are going to have to continue shelling out time and time again because your officers can't keep it in their pants, meaning their guns. And a lot of this problem with aggressive policing comes from the officers' expectation every time they go into the field that they're going to have to shoot somebody. And I wanted to also talk about this lawsuit, the 10th lawsuit that Stop LAPD Spying Coalition has had to file, and this one concerning why your officers are not giving their badge numbers. So I wanted to ask the OIG, who I know is on his way out, to please train the new person who replaces him. I wanted to know, did they ever investigate and report on this shooting that led to this fatal shooting that led to that $24 million lawsuit settlement? I want to know, do you ever audit the matter of police complaints that police officers aren't showing their badge numbers? And I just wanted to remind you to tell the new person you train, because you obviously don't know, among the OIG's duties is to review all department investigations into officer-involved shootings, in custody deaths, and uses of force that result in admission to a hospital, although that shouldn't be the threshold, of misconduct against LAP officers, and monitoring the department's investigations into complaints for thoroughness. Your function is to prevent and detect fraud, waste, abuse, and misconduct. If you ever do that, why do you do it so quietly? Why have we never, ever heard the results of an OIG audit? Why is there no transparency? I believe you do.
Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hi, yes, thank you. I'll put you on for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. First off, it's bittersweet to say goodbye to Richard. I have found that being around him is very passionate. He's very passionate for the community and for the officers. It's been a great honor to know him. I wish him the best on his next journey in life. So stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for your service. I do agree on agenda item 4A. And I appreciate Chief Choi's report and answering all the questions that the commissioners had. I hope everyone has a happy Easter if you celebrate that. And I'd also like to add prayers to the tragic situation in Baltimore, Maryland. That's really heartbreaking. I hope everybody is found and saved, whatever. Stay healthy, stay safe. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker is Megan.
If anybody has any doubts about whether or not this commission is a lapdog, all they have to do is sit here and listen to the chief of police talk about how he's personal family friends with your executive director. This week on the agenda is another presentation honoring a group of people whom LAPD inflicts extra violence upon. Last month, Black people, this month, women. No doubt the commissioners will have exactly 0 questions or comments about what LAP is doing to protect its sworn women officers from harassment, or to hold accountable its male officers from harassing, raping, and beating civilian women while on and off duty. Googling this topic is absolutely horrific in terms of both details and scope of this issue for the LAPD. I wonder if any of you have done it. Just simply Google it. It's really fucked up and it goes back 4 decades at least. I'm grateful to LAPD Spying Coalition for creating a timeline, LAPD Domestic, Sexual, and Child Abuse, which everybody can find at stoplapdspying.org. This report makes clear, and I'll quote directly from that report now, the abuse of children and women at the hands of LAPD officers is persistent over time. The targets of abuse are varied. There is a pattern of verbally diminishing the seriousness of rape and abuse within LAPD. We saw that here just last year when Lillian Carranza reported that her male coworkers were passing around porn with her face superimposed on it. Chief Moore covered it up. In Carranza's own words, she was, quote, hurt, abandoned, and devalued by my superiors who took no steps to prevent known harm to me from occurring and who stood by and watched, encouraged, or simply looked the other way as I was ridiculed, humiliated, and degraded by fellow LAPD employees despite my persistent pleas for help. Many incidents go unreported or are not made public, according to reports made by that office. Supervisors often fail to protect victims. Officers who abuse are treated with leniency. The timeline was last updated in 2017, and I thought I'd highlight a couple incidents which have occurred more recently. Last year, Officer William Rodriguez, a 10-year veteran, was convicted of rape that he was arrested for in 2019. He was arrested for that 2015 rape when a second woman came forward in 2018 to accuse him of a different rape, and when his DNA was ran, they found the first one. And just this year, Officer Shea Vandevenner was arrested for felony domestic violence. It was his second arrest. He was arrested for the same thing in 2023 and stayed employed by LAPD. Great job.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
A great report, Chief Choi. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the killing of Officer from NYPD, Jonathan Diller. Moment of silence. God rest his soul. Thank you. And for all the officers that have been killed in the line of duty. Officer Diller was in Queens, New York, doing a traffic stop. There was a car parked illegally at a bus stop. Sounds very routine, doesn't it? They were just approaching the car, he and his partner. And that's when the incident occurred. Nothing is routine in policing. And so we always have to remember that. Last week, I heard Chief Choi report that the unarmed responses would be for incidents of, I think I heard this correctly, indecent exposure, intoxication calls, disturbance calls, erratic behavior, including people talking to themselves, trespasses, disputes, and the Officer Diller incident just underlines how quickly an incident can go from seeming routine to being deadly. And so I think the idea of having an unarmed response should be really examined more closely. And I don't think it's a good path to go down. Eventually, someone will get hurt. Okay, things happen very fast and escalate very fast. An armed response is a better response. That's what the LAPD should be doing. I have some real questions about that whole program. Now, 5C, the marketing recruiting issue. I looked at that company, very good, creative, what's the last word? Agency. It's not very creative or inspiring or imaginative. I recommend everyone take a look at their website. They're out of Durham, North Carolina. They only have 3 employees. They're non-union. Are you telling me that we couldn't find a marketing company in the city of Los Angeles or the state of California? Now I'm skeptical about that. I'd like to know the details of that. How much money is going to be spent? I'm hoping that the program is successful, but I'm very skeptical, just like I'm skeptical about the unarmed response. You only get 3 minutes here, so there isn't a lot of time. I recommend that everybody go to where they post the postings on the lapdonline.org website and take a look at the Voices for LAPD recommendations on how to improve morale. They're very good. And also, I recommend taking a look while you're there on YouTube, Internal Affairs podcast and the Police Applicant podcast. There's a lot to talk about, but there's not much time. The chief should have as much time as he needs. God bless the LAPD. Happy Holy Week.
The next speaker, please, Leroy Gorham.
Good morning. I'm not going to do a lot of scandalizing about the police because I was a very good person here in the city of Los Angeles during the Ira Reiner station as district attorney for this city. I've done things around this country. I just came back from Washington. I have an attack from the association. The association came at me because I saved 4,000 to 4,500 men down in South Carolina. From $7.75, I had them to come up to $80 an hour for general labor. Why? We're the first state in the United States with its import and export. We brought this United States to a point that where we were considered a great state. And now today, I have officers, I'm going to call you officer, I have officers taking all of my product that I imported, all of my clothes, my store at 9121 Western Avenue for 13 years, and give it to this Greek on 1848 Adams Boulevard, who used to be on First Street and La Brea, Nick Manopoulos. Sir, I ain't never seen this city deteriorated the way it has deteriorated. I've been in the front of Janet Heelan's office no longer than about 5 months ago, trying to tell him to stop messing with my Social Security. I'm 80 years old. I have put in enough time taking care, looking at people. I have fed much that 3rd Street in Los Angeles, whole entire center there, homeless center. So when I come back here and ask for help, the police tell me that's above my head. 77th Street, Southwest Police. I went all the way to Beverly Hills. I had to insult them, and how to insult people. And how did I insult them? By letting them know that that station was once Queen Califera Castle, and y'all taking over this United States as a play toy for yourself. I know some good police from South Carolina, ones that didn't even have to wear a gun, and they could stop any kind of disturbance that came to be. Now they have everything that I had in my store. They got all of my cars and everything, and the police wouldn't help me. They just attacked me here about 5 days ago on the bus. Pepper sprayed me for what? I have no crime, no drugs, no kind of lockup. Somebody, that's why I came back here. I'm asking somebody to please help me to get my property back so I can live. I'm going to be around a long time. My family lives for years and years.
Okay.
Sir, if you can just talk to this officer, he'll get your information.
Next, we have Michael. Michael, you're on.
I'm on, okay. You can hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items. I'd like to address the police showing up with their guns to incidents. I think this should be the normal operation. I want to refer to an incident that occurred in Las Cruces, New Mexico, at the beginning of February of this year. Sadly, Officer Jonah Hernandez was stabbed to death because he didn't draw his weapon when he went to a trespassing call. He eventually died of these injuries. A terrible video that's on YouTube at this point of this officer showing up to deal with a trespasser on a property, and this violent criminal who died, deservingly died by the hand of a gun-carrying, Second Amendment carrying citizen, took this suspect out. But the officer tragically tried to save his life, but he passed away. But the officer never drew his weapon. He didn't even draw his taser. He thought it was a trespassing call. He walks up. And it's a terrible example and lesson for all police officers. Why would you show up to a call without your service revolver out or whatever whatever you're carrying? Have it out. You don't know what this person's capable of. And police officers are not called to picnics at parties at a picnic or parties at a birthday party, or they're not called to fun events. It's for a crime either in progress or one that's been committed. So I don't understand this whole vitriol behind why police show up armed, and because they're called, that's what they're called for. I don't call the police for a good time. Hey, officer, meet me over here at Joe's bar. We're going to share a soda and a shake. No, you call them because a crime's being committed. That's what they show up for. They enforce the law. I yield my time.
Okay, next we have Victoria Grant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, what items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
This is my first time participating in this meeting, but it will not be my last. I am here to advocate for cleanup and transparency of homeless encampments in our area parks. My son is 10 years old and plays Little League Baseball throughout the Valley. As parents, we have enrolled our kids in sports to help them build character and work ethic, which we hope will lead to good citizens and responsible residents. This city belongs to all of us. Our baseball fields are inundated with garbage, homeless encampments, and have become unsafe. Parents call 911, and we are told that being homeless is not a crime. We understand and are compassionate people who want for our fellow neighbors to get help. We vote to increase spending to help the homeless, but it seems the money gets spent with no accountability, and the problem remains. It is not illegal to be homeless, but is it illegal to expose yourself to a 5-year-old? Is it illegal to yell profanity at children while you wield a big stick? Is it illegal to throw dirty needles inundated with disease on a baseball field? Is it illegal to run through a parking lot with a machete? All of these instances and many more have been endured by hundreds of parents and children while trying to just play a wholesome game. I reach out to council members, senior lead officers, state assembly. I report tickets to Caltrans and on 311 to help get these areas cleaned up. I am met with the response that it takes time because they lack the resources. We don't have enough police. This seems to be a severe contradiction to what we're being told and sold. Homeless encampments are not a danger to the kids, but cleanup by adult civilians cannot be done without police presence. Let me say that again. Homeless encampments are not a danger to the kids, but cleanup by adults cannot be done without police presence. City officials advocate for unarmed security to serve the community, but public servants demand police protection to execute their jobs. This makes no sense. The parks that I know need attention are 7100 Whitsett Avenue, North Hollywood, and 10600 Valley Heart Drive, Studio City. We are parents, we are citizens, and we care. Mr. T, your comments and service are appreciated. As you said, reform should be done daily. Can we admit that what has been done is not working and we need to reform the way?
Okay, next we have Andrew Graebner.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
All right, let me pull this up. So we'll start off with the chief's report. The chief's report should be limited to a total of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the chief's report exceeds a total of 3 minutes, we should be able to match whatever amount of time the chief takes. He got all kinds of time. He even got a bunch of extra time just to talk about your terrible executive director. Um, you know, it seems like you're all way too close, your relationship with been mentioned by a couple other speakers, but your relationship, how close you all seem to be with the department and like it's all one big happy family, police, executive director, police commission, you're all just so friendly with each other when, commission's supposed to be holding the police accountable. Um, let's see. Okay, we got the consent agenda. Um, we have donation for vacation for a couple SWAT officers or something like that. Couple officers. No on that. We have a presentation related to Women's History Month, which appears to be led by a man, by a man, according to the agenda. Um, that's a lot. But I wonder if you're going to talk about all the violence that the LAPD inflicts on women during the presentation on Women's History Month. Are you going to talk about how they, about how they target women, assault women? Just a couple weeks ago, across the street, some of your officers assaulted a woman during a city council meeting. We have all kinds of we saw the police's response to the protests a couple years ago when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade and made it legal for states to ban abortion. The police targeted people who were demonstrating in protest of that and in support of abortion rights. You know, police targeted people, viol- were violent against people who were just protesting in support of right for women to choose whether they have an abortion or not, what they're gonna do with their bodies. Um, you know, we have let's see, we have marketing services, very good creative agency. That's a very bad idea. Um, just so violent.
Okay, and our next speaker is our final speaker, Philip Tabby.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
There are people that should not be sitting in the seat or position they are in. Lying loose hands Lozano, captain here at Foothill Station, is one of them. This man has a stack of complaints, including one that is still not closed, and still nothing has happened to him. Instead, this department moved Captain Smith for allegedly saying the word smash. They moved him, demoted him, given him days. This is why officers deserve and want a civilian border rights. While Lozano called a citizen a fucking idiot out the window of his city car in uniform on his first CPAB Zoom call. Here, let me play you the audio.
Gonna make that move. We're working with LA Family Housing because I'll tell you right now, living.
But he gets to stay as a captain. The truth is, Smith decided to not lie on an affidavit. Smith spoke truth to power. Not only was he punished for that, our community suffers as well. The days of more need to be corrected. Lozano is accused of inappropriately touching a female volunteer of the LAPD. but nothing has happened to him. Lozano lied and spoke about a personnel file. Let me play you the tape.
You're making assumptions that the investigation was not completed. The investigation has not been completed. Where are you getting that from? Captain Smith.
And a complaint was filed, and nothing has happened to him on that. Both Lozano and brags a lot, Alan Hamilton, it is March, lied about who removed the blue line flag to the community. They blamed this on the commission, the removal of the blue line flag, when it was Chief Moore who removed it. Let me play you the tape of brags a lot Hamilton lying to the community.
Yeah, I would remind everyone that these policies are set by the police commission.
You know, both Lozano and Braggs-a-Lot Hamilton had to protect the Godfather at all costs. Well, he's gone. He had Lozano remove me. I've volunteered for 30 years at Foothill since I was 14, but Lozano fired me in public with no reason given. Let me remind everyone here that the LAPD works for the people, not the other way around. We will be here longer than you will. Giselle is no longer deputy chief, Hamilton is no longer deputy chief, and Moore is gone. It is time to look into this matter. Please arrange to speak with me, speak with the community, speak with Captain Smith. The time is now. God bless the LAPD. Yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. That will conclude the public comment period. We will now move on to item agenda number 4, consent agenda items. We have concluded the public comment period. We will now move on to consent agenda items. Are there any questions or comments for item 4A from my fellow commissioners?
No questions.
No. Hearing no questions or comments, we will now, I would move that we recommend the board action. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now move on to item agenda. Ma'am, we have concluded the public comment period. We have concluded the 45-minute public comment period. You are disrupting the meeting. We have concluded the public comment period. We will now move on to agenda item number 5, regular agenda items. Item A, department's verbal presentation and discussion of recognition of Women's History Month. I have Captain McIntyre, Captain Eppolito, Lieutenant Burns Johnson. Good morning, captains. Lieutenant, the floor is yours.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, chief. And special good morning to Mr. T. Fank. Thank you. I am Captain Curtis McIntyre, Commanding Officer of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division. With me, I have Lieutenant Aaron Burns Johnson, as well as Captain Amir Eppolito, President of the Los Angeles Women Police Officers Associates, also known as LAPOA. Each year, we celebrate Women's History Month by honoring the contributions made by women throughout history. Today, we will be presenting on the history of women in the LAPD. Slide 2. The Los Angeles Police Department was founded in 1869. It did not see its first policewoman until 1910, when Alice Stebbins Wells became the first woman hired by the department. And there were many other firsts for women to follow. However, being the first was not without its challenges. In those early days, women's roles within the department were limited to working women's jail facilities as matrons, dealing with juveniles, and other administrative tasks. In 1944, there were 450 vacancies with the department due to policemen leaving for military duty. In 1946, the first recognized class of policewomen graduated from the historic Elysian Park Academy. Unlike policemen, policewomen did not have uniforms. It wasn't until 1948 that the policewoman got to wear an official uniform. The uniforms consisted of a jacket, skirt, and a hat that was worn with a white blouse, black tie, and heels. Policewomen were equipped with a black leather purse to carry issued revolvers, ammo, handcuffs, flashlight, keys, notebook, and a street guide. Policemen were not allowed to promote beyond the rank of sergeant, nor were they allowed to supervise male officers. If they were assigned to work with a male detective, they could only handle issues involving women and children. Fed up with the limited scope of work, pay and benefits disparity, and lack of promotional opportunities for women, Sergeant Fanchon Blake bravely stepped forward to challenge the department. This action was pivotal as it changed the career trajectory for women within the LAPD. On August 20th, 1973, Sergeant Blake filed a sex discrimination lawsuit against the City of Los Angeles Board of Civil Service Commissioners, and then Chief Edward Ed Davis. The lawsuit alleged that the defendants violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as amended by the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, by engaging in employment discrimination in the LAPD on the basis of sex. The case became a class action lawsuit in June of 1976. In June of 1977, the United States of America filed a companion complaint alleging the city engaged in a pattern or practice of employment discrimination in LAPD on the basis of race, sex, and national origin. This action by the United States was later settled by entry into a consent decree. In November 1980, by order of the United States District Court, the scope of the represented class for the class action lawsuit was expanded to include in addition to women, all blacks and Hispanics of either sex who are past, present, and future applicants for entry-level police officer job classification with LAPD. These lawsuits were instrumental in shaping the future of women in the LAPD. The policeman and policewoman designations were eliminated, and all sworn officers bore the designation of police officer. Women were now allowed to promote beyond the rank of sergeant, serve as patrol officers, and were entitled to the same benefits as their male counterparts upon completion of the academy. Slide 3. In this slide, you'll see some of the several firsts for women in the department's history from 1910 to the present. Some notables, 1987, in the middle there was Joanna Bronwell, the first to qualify as a motor officer. Just below her is the first SWAT officer, Jen Grasso. And then also a recent notable mention was the first deputy chief, female Hispanic, Ruby Flores, just recently promoted to deputy chief.
Along with these department firsts are firsts that occur that we do not celebrate, but instead mourn. Tina Kerbrat was a probationary police officer at North Hollywood Division with just 10 months on the department when she was ambushed and killed on February 11, 1991. She left behind a husband and 2 children. It is important that we highlight her to not only keep her memory alive, but to honor the ultimate sacrifice she made for the department and the community she served. We owe her a debt of gratitude for her service. So on this chart, you will see that women represent 23% of the captain and above ranks and 19% of lieutenant and below ranks. Department-wide, women represent 19% of all sworn officers. On the bottom left is a combination of sworn and civilian. If you combine both sworn and civilian, women represent 28% of the department, while men represent 72%. And if you just take into account civilian representation, women are 56%. So there's a higher concentration of women in the civilian ranks than there are the sworn. Okay, this graph here illustrates the hiring of women and men over the last 7 years. Just note that 2024 is year to date. There's been 26 women appointed to the department. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of work to do. Some of the recruitment issues that we have and challenges are, as you may know, the needle has not moved much in the past 2 decades for the number of women represented in the sworn ranks. There are several widely cited barriers to recruiting women. Although some of the barriers mentioned here also apply to men, there are certainly areas where women are disproportionately affected. And then some of those noted are it's a dangerous profession, work-life balance issues, male-dominated field, societal attitudes towards the profession, lack of familiar support, unfair treatment, whether it's real or perceived, not appealing to some women, and then there's family caretaking issues. The American Psychological Association states that 53 to 68% of family or informal caregiving is performed by women. So this here shows some of the recruitment efforts that are being made and what we're doing. It's showing women in coveted positions. On the left, you have a woman who works the Metro Mounted Unit. In the middle, there are some of our hiring flyers where you can see that women are prominently displayed. And the ways that we support women is through the prominent display of women on recruitment material and social media. We highlight women in coveted positions. For example, the bomb K-9 unit, air support, etc. We have a women's candidate advancement program, and that is essentially a physical fitness program aimed at helping candidates in the hiring process prepare for and meet the physical fitness standards of the academy. We have a women's mentoring and interview preparation program. We have a Fit for Hire program. Although the Fit for Hire program is not exclusive to women, men can also be a part of it. The program, at the last I checked, it was 100% female participation. And it was for women who were medically deferred in the hiring process. There's hiring seminars featuring sworn women on guest speaker panels. The department also took the 30 by 30 pledge in June 2021. We also support LAPOA's maternity closet. I won't speak too much on that because Captain Eppolito will be speaking in detail on that in just a few minutes. There's also the lead-free ammunition that was implemented through a training bureau notice, and that's for officers who have medical exemptions related to lead exposure, and that's important for women who are breastfeeding. We also have mentoring and career development through mock orals and leadership development courses. And we have women's history panels that we prominently display in the lobby of police headquarters and also at our graduations and other events. With that, I'll now turn it over to Captain Eppolito, who will speak briefly about some of LAPOA's initiatives.
Good morning. My name is Amira Eppolito, and I'm the current president for LAPOA, the Los Angeles Women Police Officers and Associates. Our membership includes over 800 members. 99% of them are LAPD. 85% of them are female, and about 15% are male. And we have about 25% of civilians as members as well. So some of the initiatives that we have taken on, the maternity closet that Erin Burns mentioned was originated about 3 years ago, and it was to help provide uniforms for people that needed it. And it extends also to some men that need uniforms on a temporary basis. We've been able to provide that for them as well. This year, or at the end of last year, we created a 3-day course, Advancing Women in Law Enforcement Leadership. We're very proud of it, and we hope to offer 3 more courses this year. We do host the Women's Symposium. It actually is going to be held this Thursday, and opening the conference will be Chief Choi and Commissioner Shields. We are excited. Our theme this year is Stronger Together, and we hope to expand on our collaboration with not only other law enforcement agencies, but other resources to help us fulfill our mission. So our mission isn't just for our members, it's to recruit, retain, advance, and advocate all women in law enforcement. And so we've done more reaching out and branching out outside of our own agency to help everyone be better and be stronger together. So that's our theme for not only our conference, but for this year as well. So we look forward to doing more and to working collaboratively with more entities as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Amira. A lot has happened in the 155-year existence of the department. It is important that we look back and acknowledge where we were as a department in those early days, the progress we have made, and how much further we have to go. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of all of our female sworn and professional staff members on this department who work tirelessly each day to ensure the continuity of the department operations. We see you, we appreciate you, and we thank you for your service to this department, the community, and to raising the profile of women in law enforcement. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, captains, I say that plural, and lieutenant, for your outstanding presentation this morning. With that, I will reserve my comments, questions to go last. I will defer to Vice President Shields for any comments or questions.
Thank you. And thank you for this great presentation. And it is really important to see really how far the department has come, but also how far the department also needs to go. And I really value all of your leadership here and all of the initiative that you are taking to really make the department the example nationwide as to what we need to be doing to make sure women do not have any barriers in this profession. I am somewhat less concerned about the actual numbers as I am about what is the environment that we are asking women to join. So I want to make sure that the department is doing everything to get rid of any barriers, both entering into the profession, being hired, and then when they're here, that they're actually included, that they feel included, they feel they are part of the department. And I think that some of the initiatives with the maternity closet and other types of things, that is what shows inclusivity. And I think the more people feel included, the easier it will be to recruit. And so we have to focus on the people that are here now and make sure that they are heard if there are any issues. And kind of to that, and I had, just a week or two ago also met with a group of mom cops and talked about some of the concerns or potential, whether perceived or actual barriers to, women on the job who want to get pregnant or are pregnant. And so I do want to ensure that the department understands all of the benefits that, comes with a pregnant workforce, and also make sure that no one in the chain is devaluing or potentially intentionally or unintentionally discriminating against anyone going through that process. And also making sure that everyone understands, all of the lactation accommodations that need to occur, making sure that the environment in which that is done is appropriate. And I appreciate that there's lead-free ammunition. Again, that is showing that the department is thinking about these issues and really trying to understand them and respond to them. So I'm so grateful for all of those leaderships. And again, I think the commission can do even more to ensure that the department is really setting the bar here nationwide. And to that end, I will ask also for potentially the Inspector General's assistance in this regard. I do want us to be looking at all of our sexual harassment policies, discrimination policies, pregnancy accommodations, things like that, to ensure that our policies here in the department are demonstrating best practices around the nation. So that is something that I look for the partnership with the Inspector General's office on doing that. But thank you for that presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I do want to shout out Deputy Chief Ruby Flores, who's here in person and was also bigger than life up on the screen. So congratulations and thank you for everything you do, not only in the Valley now, but throughout your career, what you have done for our community. Appreciate you. Question regarding the fit for hire. Can you share a little bit about, you mentioned 100% of the individuals taking advantage of that are women. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah, there's not too, because recruitment is not here today, and so I don't want to overstep my boundaries and speak on a topic. Oh, they are here. Well, hello. Maybe I can call up Captain Patillo, who can speak to it, but I can give you a very general, because I did work recruitment prior to coming to DEI. But The numbers, the last that I checked, it is open to men and women, but 100% of the participants were women that were medically deferred.
Good morning, and Lieutenant Burns is definitely qualified to speak about this, but I'm glad I'm here as well. There are some candidates that are just not ready to participate in the regular CAP program. Maybe they're a little intimidated or their level of fitness is not high enough yet. So we offer a program that's more of like a beginner's program with the goal of getting them to participate in the regular candidate advancement program. So starting out with, just like a smaller program, but paired with advice on diet and nutrition.
Why, I mean, I don't want to assume, maybe we could assume, but why aren't the men taking advantage of that? In addition, what is sort of the success rate there for the women that are participating?
I don't have figures on success rate. As far as it's definitely open to anyone who wants to sign up. I don't know if it's more of a cultural thing because if men see a group of women working out, maybe they want to gravitate more toward where additional men are working out. But we also have one-on-one mentoring. So for instance, if someone is a little embarrassed to come forward and discuss their issues, they can consult with a mentor over the phone or virtually and discuss these issues. The head nurse at medical shared with me that if a candidate has to lose more than 50 pounds, they are less likely to ever be able to pass the medical. So there's, as far as success rate, when we're dealing with candidates that have a lot to lose, there may not be a very high level of success.
Okay. So I'm just curious, really, that going back to sort of the cultural environment that exists, and for me now, I am going to assume something. I think it shows grit that the women have to say, I'm going to push forward and take advantage of this opportunity and try to get there, versus maybe some of us men would just give up and say, oh, I'll step away. But anyhow, thank you. And I would want to maybe visit if that's an opportunity and just learn more about what is available and how that and the culture within the department can sort of close the gap or close the gap in the culture of the department where it's not seen as that, where if it's a bunch of women, it's just for women, and sort of this separation and I think false perception of the men saying, well, I'm going to go work out with the men or hang out with the men or have a conversation with the men, but really highlighting that grit and energy and resiliency of our women. Thank you.
And may I add, sir, in the past, last Saturday during the hiring seminar, we also had CAP going on at the same time. It was raining, so the instructors brought the attendees inside, and our CAP attendance is up by nearly 90% this year. But the workout is, it seems to be pretty grueling, but candidates can go at their own pace. It's very positive. It's not something like they're getting ground into the ground or being discouraged. They're being encouraged.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you. And thank you for another presentation showing the strides that have been made within the department, but also pointing out the real-world challenges that we have to obtaining the goal. I think a goal set by a prior administration, which is the 30-30 goal. And I see that we still have a ways to go to achieving that. One of the steps, but before I go to this point, I do want to also recognize and commend Deputy Chief Flores for being here today, and thank you for all your efforts when you previously sat on the DEI board and to help the department move in this direction, Deputy Chief. Your work has not gone unnoticed. And so One of the things that I know that we were working on when Deputy Chief was in this building was a program specifically designed around childcare. And we were attempting to stand up and emulate a program that is currently existing in San Diego. So my question is not for any of you here. However, it will be for Chief Choi and or Mr. T-Fank, because they're aware of the efforts that we were making around this program. And I know that it came down to some finances or something like that. So Chief Choi or Mr. T-Fank, can you speak to that? Because what we were trying to do with this program is eliminate one of the concerns that you highlighted up there, which is, you know, everyone, from men and women, wonder what do you do with a child during the day when you're not there and you have to be present here in the department. And we were trying to lean up a standalone program for all officers to utilize. Mr. T-Fank or Chief Choi, can you speak to that, please?
Yes, Commissioner Briggs, I'll address it. We did the research with San Diego Police Department and with their police association that worked with their nonprofit support group to stand up the program, which I believe now is operational in San Diego. And it was funded by a portion of grant money from the state of California to construct the facility, and then they partnered with KinderCare to be the child care provider. And their service was unique in that it was going to be offering child care from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Sunday. And it would also have ability, if there was a situation where an officer had to get called in, that they would have someone come in and take care of child care until they came to the normal hours. The ask that we had to stand that program up for logistics and to contract with a child care provider was approximately $3 million. We attempted to get that money into the state budget for this year. Due to the budget shortfall at the state level, that did not occur. So at this point in time, the program is available. The organization that helped San Diego has implemented it around the country at other police departments. And for ours to get a facility and to have about 50 to 60 children would be about $3 million startup cost, and then an annual cost after that per year. And the rate for officers would be 50% of what they would normally pay, and that's part of what the grant money would be to offset the other half of that. But at this point in time, great program, stalled for no funding.
Thank you, Mr. T-Fank. So my question and or challenge to you, Captain McIntyre, since you now fill this seat, is how do we caucus or garner the support of the necessary stakeholders within the city and state to lean up such a program for LAPD so that the men and women of LAPD who have children can rest assured that their children will be taken care of while they are taking care of the rest of the city. So that's what I challenge you with for this upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. And I'd just like to echo the compliments and comments by my fellow commissioners, especially Vice President Shields, on the environment. I'd also like to commend Deputy Chief Flores for being here and her efforts. She has not been a stranger on our campus when we've had LAPOA host a number of panels over the last several years. Captain Patillo and your efforts at the Amundsen Recruit Training Center this past weekend, and again, we made a note of pointing out how many of those over 100 people taking the test that day were women. And one of the things that we mentioned during that conversation on Saturday was the number of women that have gone on to specialized units here. I happen to know Jen Grasso. She's a former graduate student of mine. I went to an event last week at the Consul General's residence, the Korean Consul General. I met a Korean American female officer who was assigned to air support, another one who was narcotics canines, and I know my fair share of canine handlers. So what I would add to that is I noticed on your where we stand slide, one of the things that I think this department should echo and champion and be proud of is the education level of our women in this department. So I would love to see AA, BA, MA, PhD that we have in this department, because we have them. And I think, again, that's a great selling point, because when I go to those Saturday sessions, quite often what I'm asked by people who are taking the test is, will I be able to continue my education? And I say, we encourage you in continuing your education because you're an investment in the future of the department. So for all of you who have done that, congratulations. But I would like to see what those numbers look like. And let's share that when we go out to market and brochures and things like that, so we have that, so we can recruit even more people to the department who want to do that. With that, I'm going to, if there are no other comments or questions, I'm going to just thank you again for your efforts, thank you for your time, and we will move on with 30 by 30 and get these numbers up. Appreciate your report. We'll move on to item agenda 5B, which is the department's report relative to the FTO selection and training audit. I have Lieutenant Gordado. And Lieutenant, the floor is yours.
Morning, Commissioners. Morning, Chief. Inspector Dill. First, I'd like to introduce, seated next to me, Police Performance Auditor 4, Sergio Sykes, who is the Section Supervisor overseeing this audit. The Field Training Officer, or FTO Selection and Train Audit, was conducted by Audit Division with the purpose of determining whether or not the department followed policies and procedures with respect to FTO interview and selection package completion and fulfillment of training requirements prior to working with probationary officers. This audit covers two objectives, with objective number 2 being broken down into sub-objectives. While the department performed well in objectives 2A and 2B with compliance rates of 91 and 90% respectively, the department's compliance rate in objective 1 was 43%, which dealt with the completeness of FTO interview and selection packages. Audit Division did meet with the audit entity, who was in general agreement with all of the audit findings. Regarding objective 1, during the validation process, the Office of Operations Inspection Unit did discover that a portion of the documents deemed missing were actually completed, but not properly properly stored within the selection packages. However, in the interest of transparency and objectivity, although these documents were eventually located, they were not properly stored within the packages as required, thus were considered findings. There have been immediate steps taken to address this issue. Office of Operations has contacted the 21 geographic areas related to the findings in Objective 1 to reinforce file organization standards in regard to FTO selection packages. Office of Operations will also contact the Geographic Bureau inspection teams to create quarterly follow-up inspections on the FTO selection and training packages. And in response to Audit Division's recommendation, the Office of Operations will corroborate with Personnel Division to update the sworn selection checklist located within the selection guidelines. The current form within the employee selection guidelines displays a revised date of March 8, 2012, while the new checklist shows being revised as of December 2016. Thank you, and at this time, we avail ourselves for any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Vice President Shields.
Just one question. Is there any attempts to kind of automate or more digitize some of this so that we don't have such a problem with record management?
At this time, we currently are not digitizing unless...
Yeah, I think that's more of a question for the operations command. That they're just auditing.
Good morning. Commander Liam, Office of Operations. and I'm joined by Yadira Yete from Office Operations, as well as one of our auditors in-house. So we encourage using SharePoint. That's kind of the first step for us. We haven't taken it beyond that. We can look at that option, but it's really kind of a staffing issue for us as well.
Yeah, my concern is it sounds like all the documents are there, so people are trying to keep track of it, but things get lost with paper documents. So the more we're able to come up with an easier system that will just be more efficient for them, that may help the whole process and not have to create even more inspections and more report, right? Like if we just simplify the system up front, that may solve the problem down the road.
Thank you. Commissioner Briggs? No question. Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, just curious about the, SB 29, there was 104 out of 115 that met the standards. You just share a little bit about what that means and how we're addressing it?
Within the selection package, there's 10 documents that we're looking for. So when Audit Division went in there, they were looking for the specific 10 items. And we were in compliance with 104 of those.
How do we get to 100% compliance?
We are implementing a bureau inspection every single quarter. So every bureau has our police performance auditor 3s, who are the OICs of the inspection units. So every quarter we'll be monitoring the progress, and all the results will come to the Office of Operations.
And so that first one's due April 30th. So that'll come to me and we'll see that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a couple questions. I want to understand that now we have an annual audit process for our FTO officer selection and training?
It's not annual every year. Every year towards the end of the year, we come together and we decide, we look at past audits of what has not had a high compliance rate that needs to be retested, or other issues that are higher risk at this point that we might add to the audit list.
Okay.
But it's not guaranteed that one audit will be on the same one next year.
Okay, so we're not going to do an annual audit like this in the future?
I think what we look at, like the commander mentioned, see how the quarterly reports are doing, and if there's a rise in compliance rates, that would have to revisit the risk factor in that, being that they improved or not.
Okay. The second question I have, I want to make sure that all of our FTOs have completed the 40-hour post-certified FTO training. Okay, great. That was one of my concerns.
Yes, that was one of the objectives that we looked at, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And as you see, we had a 91 compliance rate. So the ones that weren't, what happened was, these were instances, the ones that were findings were instances where it was like exigent circumstances where the probationer showed up to work and the FTO was sick or had to take the day off or something, and there was no one available to work with. And that's where the finding was when they were assigned to a seasoned police officer too. But since then, to remedy this, the Office of Operations has also reached out to all the commands of all the geographic areas and recommended and reminded them of the availability for a probation officer when there's no field trained officer available to assign them to a non-patrol function, which they're allowed to 2 days a deployment period, such as a kit room or the area command office or something. But as of now, yes, they're in the process of ensuring that all the field trained officers are qualified.
Okay, thank you, because I know those things do happen. Sometimes you'll have that rare occasion where there are not enough FTOs for probationary officers that need to be trained that day. As long as we stay in compliance with post. I have the same question regarding the MHIT course in terms of our 8 hours of certified crisis intervention training. Again, I just want to make sure that we do not have probationary officers with FTOs who have not completed those two state mandated requirements to be an FTO which then would cause our probationary officers to fall into to somewhat of an area of question if there's a percentage of their training where they've not been with a certified FTO, if I'm making sense.
It does, sir, and yes, it's been remedied. It's been corrected.
Okay. If there are no other comments or questions, I would move that we recommend for board action the department's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners?
We'll move on to agenda item number 5C, the department's report relative to the approval of selected marketing and advertising services contractor. I have Deputy Chief Reyna and Captain Patillo. Good morning.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
Good morning, President Southers, members of the board, Chief Choi, Inspector General Mark Smith, Mr. Tifank, and City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra. I'm here with Captain Robin Patillo, the Commanding Officer of Recruitment and Employment Division, to request approval of the selected proposer, Very Good Creative Agency, VGCA, referred to as, to provide professional marketing and advertisement services for the Los Angeles Police Department. So to go into more detail, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Patillo this time.
Good morning again. As you know, in line with the nationwide trend, the department has encountered a challenge in recruiting and hiring qualified police candidates, along with an increased rate of attrition. An additional challenge for the department is to diversify the rank and file by increasing the representation of women, African American, and Asian American Pacific Islanders. The department currently has approximately 427 sworn vacancies. The recruitment crisis has led to staffing shortages, increased workload, and the increased use of overtime and extended working hours to fill the gaps. Today, as the department seeks to attract qualified candidates for our outstanding career opportunities, we must do so in a job market and to a demographic that almost exclusively gets its news and information from digital sources, including social media. It is for this reason that it is crucial to use professional marketing and advertising services that can speak to a younger demographic on digital platforms. The department has approximately $1,072,000 available to use for marketing, advertising, and expenses related to recruitment. This money consists of funding reallocated from fiscal year 22 to 23 and also from the fiscal year 2023 to 2024. To select a marketing firm, the department released the Request for Proposals, or RFP, on the Los Angeles City Regional Alliance Marketplace for Procurement, or RAMP. And I would like to thank members of the fiscal group contract section for their guidance in this process. It could not have been done without them. The scope of work in the RFP included the following: a contract for no longer than 3 years and no more than $600,000 per year, awarded into service prior to the conclusion of the 23-24 fiscal year. To design, develop, and execute customized marketing strategies, content, and videos to promote LAPD recruitment opportunities. To utilize various platforms in the designated marketing areas to recruit applicants. To launch a digital media strategy, including planning, execution, optimization, and reporting. To promote the application process and recruitment events, and to implement transparent and real-time reporting and analytics to optimize performance, including performance schedules. I will now provide a brief overview of the selection process and provide details on the company we are recommending. On August 10th, 2023, the department released the RFP to potential proposers on the RAMP. Proposers were required to attend a pre-proposal conference on August 31st, 2023. Responses to the RFP were due on October 5th, 2023. Ultimately, 13 vendors submitted written proposals for the department to consider. A selection committee was formed to review the applications. The selection committee members consisted of Deputy Chief Mark Reyna of Training Bureau, Melissa Hamamoto, Chief Personnel Analyst of Personnel Department, Public Safety Division, Captain Kelly Muniz of Media Relations Division, Lieutenant Aaron Burns-Johnson, then who was the officer in charge of recruitment section, and myself. Each vendor's proposal was reviewed by a fiscal group contract section to ensure compliance with the mandatory city policies, including the Business Inclusion Program. After review and scoring by the selection committee, the top 3 vendors were contacted for an informal virtual follow-up meeting in which clarification questions were asked. Ultimately, VGCA received the highest overall score on criteria and was the department's choice vendor. Overall, VGCA's proposal aligns most closely with the department's needs and offers a competitive price point. VGCA is a firm that is based out of Durham, North Carolina, with offices in Los Angeles and Austin, Texas. VGCA has brand experience over a wide range of categories, including airlines, retail, sports, tourism destinations, city and state organizations, and recruitment campaigns for the Army National Guard. During the selection process, we also acquired references for VGCA, and every client that was contacted provided exceptional feedback, including comments such as, VGCA's creative director is the best in the business. They handled military and Department of Defense contracts while paying attention to security concerns. The firm was innovative and helped the client understand the process. They adjusted strategy when needed. They started off strong and didn't taper off. They had a fresh perspective and were easy to work with. They were enthusiastic about public service. They understood the correct audience, which included a young, multicultural demographic. They over-delivered on creating and executing a digital strategy. They understood public service and embedded human interest stories in the message. And as you can see, the clients of VGCA are very pleased with their work. The VGCA proposal details the scope of work to be completed and includes a 12 to 16 week performance schedule to be completed in 5 phases, which include research and discovery, strategy and positioning, creating and concepts, production and activation, and assessing and optimization. In conclusion, the selection of VGCA for a marketing and advertising contract is a strategic move that aligns with the department's need to better promote itself on digital platforms to attract a young and diverse demographic to the career of law enforcement with the LAPD. VGCA recognizes that internal messaging for retention is just as important as external messaging for recruitment. Additionally, as Recruitment and Employment Division already partners with the various Los Angeles community-based organizations, Community Safety Partnership, and employee affinity groups such as the Los Angeles Women's Police Officers and Associates, the Latin American Law Enforcement Association, Oscar Joel Bryant Foundation, and Law Enforcement Association of Asian Pacifics, we are eager to include these groups in discussions on how to better use digital marketing to diversify the department. We are excited to move forward in our marketing efforts and look forward to working with VGCA. This concludes our presentation, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Captain. I'd like to open with just one question. You noted in your report that 2 proposers filed a protest under a section of the RFP. And it says here that the fiscal group and the city attorney sent a determination letter to them denying the protest and the remedies being sought. I'm just curious, can you share what the nature of the protest was?
Yes. One of the protesters asked for the department to cancel the RFP and cancel the award to VGCA and to reissue a new RFP with corrected and detailed evaluation criteria. Another protest was they requested the release of the proposal and submission and scoring sheets, and that was denied based on the fact that it is not to the department's advantage to release that to the public until negotiations are finished. So those would be releasable later per SEPRA, per the city attorney. Another request or protest was, another firm asked for RFP to be rescinded and a new RFP to be issued. That was denied. And they also requested the release of these proposal documents to be made public.
So, Captain, other than the proposal documents being made public, was there any more specificity with regards to why they wanted the RFP rescinded or canceled?
Well, I believe, and this is from the discussion with the city attorney, each company made a case that they felt that the RFP didn't include certain items. But the RFP was it included exactly what we wanted it to include. And it was gone over by fiscal group contracts, as I mentioned. The city attorney reviewed the RFP prior to its release and then re-reviewed it when these protests occurred. They also reviewed all our documents and they didn't find anything of concern.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were covering our bases as it related to fairness and inclusivity. So I'll defer to Vice President Shields. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. I think the verbal presentation was helpful to help supplement what's already provided in the report. One thing that I would just say for future consideration of any type of similar committees, you mentioned that you formed a selection committee in order to identify this vendor. I think with recruiting or other kind of similar areas, I would also consider adding someone from the DEI team that we just heard from as an additional person on the selection committee. I understand Lieutenant was there in her capacity as in her recruiting capacity, but I think in the future having someone also sitting at the table with that lens would also be helpful.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Just a quick note in terms of the questions around the protesters. There was also the bidders conference and I imagine typical standard Q&A period. So I'm sure they had plenty of time to ask questions and get any clarification ahead of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Briggs?
No questions.
Thank you. And with that, again, thank you for the report. Good luck for moving forward with this. I know how important this is, Captain. We've talked about it in quite a lot of detail. And it's necessary if we're going to continue having the numbers of people come to this department to apply. So with that, I would move that we accept the recommendation for board action. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you again for the report. The commission will now recess into closed session.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 6A in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The closed session item was discussed. No action was taken at this time.
So the commission has concluded closed session. We'll have a report out by the executive director, Mr. Tiefenk.
The item was discussed and no action was taken.
Thank you. I will move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.